Welcome to this episode of the Strong Kind Podcast. This episode is with Christina Reburn-Duprey. She is a physical therapist that I have gotten to interact with through a few mutual organizations. And she's got a really, I don't want to say cool because it's kind of a hard journey through chronic illness that she's come on the other side of. We talked a lot about her management of chronic illness. She just completed a half marathon recently, which was a pretty cool win for her. She's also a physical therapist who helps people manage chronic illness, build safety and trust in their body. She is a Pilates enthusiast, and I think she's an instructor as well as a physical therapist. She uses Pilates as part of the process for helping people build more trust, get confident in their body, and build up to doing more and more things that are in alignment with what people want to do. She also is an advocate for strength training and, physical and mental health. This was a really great episode. I really enjoyed talking to Christina. You can find her on Instagram, and I will link her Instagram in the show notes, and I also link to her website. She's somebody to check out, and give her a follow and give her some support. And if you need help from her, please check her out. If you are into strength and conditioning, you want to get stronger, you want to get faster, you want to run further, you want to run faster. If you want to lift weights, you want to play, and you want to have fun and overcome pain, check me out. My name is dr.dave.strengthandkindness on Instagram. I'd love to help you in any way I can, either through my content or if you need specific help from me, please reach out. Thanks so much for being here. Peace.
Reburn is my maiden name and Duprey is my married name.
Okay, I was gonna botch it. I was gonna be like Christina Reburn-Duprey.
Reburn-Duprey.
Okay, super cool. Oh, Christina and me know each other through just the Honey Badger Project. Christina is like the appropriate amount of Delulu, in my opinion. She also just has a really interesting journey. So, like, Christina, like, I kind of want to start there. Like, talk about Lyme disease. This is a super terrible segue. Talk about Lyme disease. How did that come about? Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's like you get it from ticks, right? You have a tick, unfortunately, right? But talk me through it.
Yeah, so I'm from Northeast Oklahoma. Grew up camping, grew up with 18 acres behind my house. We always had ticks. That was just a normal part of life in Oklahoma. But I never had like a rash or an infection, never any of those signs that would lead you towards like maybe I should go see a doctor, maybe this tick bite was infected or transmitted something. I just over time wasn't like every other kid. I always had really weird stomach problems they couldn't figure out. I lacked a lot of energy, like Friday nights, I would have to skip football games because I couldn't go through a day of school and then go stand in the bleachers. So always things that were just like something is a little bit not right, but there was never a reason for it. And especially, I think, as an adolescent, you don't know. Like, I've only ever lived in one body. I don't know. I just figured, like, hey, everyone feels like this. Maybe they just push through a little bit differently than I do. And looking back now, we're able to trace all of these things. There was something underlying for most of my life, like from probably age 12 onward. But didn't know, kept going. I have the too much gene, so I just will do too much, and I will keep doing too much. So I went to college for dance, got a scholarship, moved out to Los Angeles, was going to major in dance. I lasted, as a dance major, 3 days. I got there and I just realized that I wasn't supposed to do that. And I think we can always look back and find some defining moments in our life that put us on the path we're supposed to be on. I didn't know at the time, but looking back, it was just like intuition. My body would not have been able to handle that. I couldn't go be active for 6 days, for 6 hours in dance class, go to an academics, and then go to rehearsal all night and perform on the weekends. Like something I just knew that didn't sit right with my soul. And so I lasted 3 days and I pivoted to health sciences. I always knew eventually I wanted to be a healthcare provider. My dad is in medicine, but I didn't know what that looked like for me. And then kind of through that journey, just found clarity, found physical therapy, and that launched me on the path. Senior year of college, shit hit the fan. I was over in Italy. I got a virus, and sometimes it's just one little thing that tips your immune system over the edge. And then I couldn't walk independently. I lost about 9 months of memory. My mom moved out to California to take care of me, to try to help me graduate college. Barely passed my classes, barely graduated. At this point, I'm still traveling around, interviewing for physical therapy schools, have no idea what's going on, no diagnosis. And that kind of was the time where like, okay, something is seriously wrong and you have to stop. You can't keep going. You've kept going through all of these warning signs. That's not serving you anymore. And like my body just shut down. So that really was the turning point that jump-started this journey of getting diagnosed with late-stage Lyme disease. By the time that they found it, which again is kind of another aside, diagnosis and testing is really, really poor for Lyme disease, especially when we look at a more chronic infection. There was a new study that just came out from Bay Area Lyme Disease Foundation that says the standard CDC tests miss up to 74% of cases. So we're missing a lot of the population that's affected and has mystery chronic illness. So long journey to get diagnosed. By the time I was diagnosed, it was in my cerebral spinal fluid. So I actually got diagnosed through a spinal tap because I thought I had multiple sclerosis. At that point, I have no executive functioning, which seems really like weird to talk about. But if you told me to pick between option A and B for dinner, I couldn't, and I would start crying. Like I had no capacity to make a choice, to choose a direction. So like mentally and emotionally, capacity was just not zero, but negative. And then physically as well, seizure symptoms, exhaustion, fatigue, couldn't walk independently, all the stuff. So obviously that put life on hold. Yeah, I took a deferral for a year from physical therapy school. I'm so thankful for my family and my medical team. That year was really, really intense, but I like did everything in the kitchen sink to treat, and then went to PT school. And honestly, since 2019, I'm still healing. It looks different and every year is better. It's been 7 years at this point, but that's kind of informed where I stand today and also informs, honestly, every choice I make as a provider.
Yeah, that's wild. Absolutely trip of a story. It also just alludes to the fact that, like, you know, I think it's hard because we kind of value like the heroic overcoming of like, you know, problems and stuff, but there's also just so many people's problems that like straight up are under the surface. You don't see, you're judging their capacity based on just kind of like what your perception of is going on, right? And like I do it too, and even as a healthcare practitioner, like I want to believe and like really feel for people who are struggling, but there's also an element in my brain, well, it's like you got to just kind of figure it out, right? Like you got to get going. But there's like literally shit that sucks that happens to people, right? So okay, 2019. Like, how did you do in 2020? Like 2020, I'm like, you know, I was healthy, and 2020 wrecked me cognitively and emotionally because like I'm health conscious. I'm like psychosocially, like, you know, I like was like grieving because I was treating like older folks in their homes, right? Like that like really jacked me. I was also just burnt out from like honestly healthcare job that sucked, right? But how did you do amongst the chaos of 2020 and just like, you know, you're probably what would be considered an at-risk type person at that point, right? So how did that go for you?
I love that question. I loved 2020.
Yeah.
There's something inherently isolating about chronic illness and chronic disease. I feel like even more so when you're 21 and 22, all of your peers are out. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. They're out on Broadway. They're going to bars. They're partying. They're trying 4 different exercise classes. They're running just because they can. And they're living their life with just this like youthful, reckless abandon that they have the physical capacity to do. I'm living in a body that doesn't let me do any of those things. So I'm really like, there's a lot of grief and there's a lot of isolation. So then all of a sudden, the whole world gets thrown into this world of grief and isolation. And I actually felt better because I felt like for a little bit, someone knew what I'd been dealing with for a year and a half on my own. So the ability to have some of those conversations of like, hey, I've been feeling this way and I know it's different for you, but there was a little bit more just understanding because it rocked everyone's world. And then I didn't feel like I was the only person getting the rug ripped out from underneath me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's such a wild, like, I think they call them like kind of like light bulb events where it's like everybody who was alive. How old are you again?
29.
29. Okay, so you were alive when during September 11th, right? But like you were probably very young. But like
Young.
everybody who was, I'm 37, right? So I remember that I was in my 7th grade math class when they turned on the TV and September 11th happened, right? And like a lot of people, like I remember being in the airport when they started to broadcast that like we're gonna have like travel closures and XYZ in 2020, right? So like everybody has these kind of like light bulb moments of like COVID pandemic stuff, and it's just so out of the norm. But also a lot of people, I think, that year set off a lot of like psychosocial emotional problems that like I still have consult calls with people who's like, a lot of your problems kind of started around 2020, and yes, they're physical problems, but they're also like cognitive and emotional things that you're still working through, right? Like it took me like 3 years to get used to being in a crowd again. Like, you know, I was like literally anxious as hell. So yeah, I love that your answer was like it helped me connect with people because it's true. Like it really it can weirdly, it definitely separated us in a lot of ways too, but it can bring us together on like some level of, you know, like, hey, we're humans and humans are wild, right? So take me through, like, you danced, you obviously danced and you danced well. And dance is crazy. So my wife Mary was a dance major in undergrad, and like she is a night owl, which it makes it work. Like I would go to bed at like 9 o'clock, and she's like still bopping and wants to stay up till 11 o'clock. But that was when she would still be going to the studio to dance and stuff like that. How was dance like liberating for you as a kid, and then it just kind of became like you knew it wasn't gonna work? Because like that would be really hard. Was that hard, like to be like, oh, I have to give this up, or did you just kind of know?
I just think I knew. I think it's still hard, and I do think there's a portion of me that still grieves that path of my life that I wasn't able to explore and take. It's something that like you just kind of feel like the rug got ripped underneath you. Like I'd been working my whole life to achieve this goal. I got scholarship to go study dance, and I was moving to Los Angeles, and I'm 18 from a small town in Oklahoma. So to be given that opportunity and then to make the choice to walk away from it and to not push into something that you ultimately just knew was going to disservice you in the long run, is still something that I deal with and still something that I think about. And it's interesting timing. I just ran my first half marathon this past weekend. And that was the first time, like this January through that 16-week training block was the first time I'd been able to push my body in a way that I was used to pushing my body when I was 18 years old. And that's 10 years ago. So I feel like when we look at people's journeys and we think about social media and we're getting the highlight reel, I love that people are so much more open about what they're dealing with. We have fitness influencers and providers with large followings talking about how they are managing their POTS and their endometriosis and all of this stuff. So you see that and you see them lifting and running and doing all of this stuff, but that was 10 years of a process for me to get there. So I feel like as a provider, I'm very conscious about, yes, telling my story and honoring all the healing and my newfound capacity, but also adding that nuance of I didn't just get diagnosed, then deal with it for a little bit and then run a half marathon. Like I've been in the trenches of medical treatment and lifestyle management for 10 years to be able to build up my baseline foundation to be strong enough to handle that physiological stress.
Yeah. It's well, first and foremost, I appreciate your vulnerability. I know, like, I brought up. I mean, it sucks. It sucks to like grow up doing something and then have to like pivot, even if you know, right? Like, so, but I mean, and then like, I think this is so much of it too. It's like me and my brother were golfing like a couple of years ago. It was like right after my birthday, so I think I turned 36. And we were just kind of talking. He's like 4 years older than me, and you know, I'm a proponent of like it's not age. Like we're all going to age, and we all definitely have different, like, you know, we all have different. Gosh, I can't even think of the genetic like like, what's the genetic expression?
Like predisposition.
Yeah, but even like your genetic code is one thing, but even how those are expressed is the other thing. I can't think of the word right now, which is terrible, but like, our environment, is going to bring out certain amounts of expressions, and like also just like, the support we have in life is going to bring out like different things, right? But me and my brother were also just talking about, like, it kind of sucks. Like, when I was a 17-year-old kid, I didn't have to think about jack squat. Like, I'd just go run 5 miles, and I would like play soccer, and I would be able to recover, and like, and now just as an adult, there's just like more and more stressors on you, and it's like the shit that I have to do just to like stay at baseline, right? And then social media is like, and I'm on social media, obviously, like, and I'm not that impressive of a human being, but I love to do this stuff, and I think it helps to see other people doing it. But at the same time, it's like, I'm sore. Like, my body hurts. Like, it doesn't mean that, like, just because I'm doing this stuff that it's perfect. And it's like, these are really long freaking journeys that most people are on, right? And a lot of times you are just seeing the highlight reel. And, like, I think everybody should give themselves a lot more grace for just, like, showing up consistently or resting. Like, honestly, what did you call it earlier? You have, like, the go gene or
The too much gene.
the too much gene, yeah. Is that, like, too much as, like, I'm a woman that's too much, or I just like to do too much? I want it all type of stuff. What is that? Define your too much gene.
If level 5 is acceptable, I'm at level 10.
Oh, I can definitely tell that from our interactions so far, as just colleagues and whatnot. Are you a perfectionist?
I had to let it go. I had to let it go. I think now I have enough distance from some of like those really, really hard years, and I've been able to make this experience my superpower, honestly, because it's so rare that someone my age is stripped of so much that gives them I had to rebuild from nothing. So I was able to be super conscious about what I was building and what bricks I was choosing to build the rest of my life on, and was able to strip a lot of those things that didn't serve me. So I would say the first 18 years of my life, yeah, I just pushed through everything. In dance, you sprain your ankle and you keep going. Like, I broke my foot and danced the rest of the routine on a broken foot because that's what I was on stage. Like, you just do it. So then to lose everything and have the opportunity to start from scratch in a way that's going to set your life up more kind and balanced, I had to shed a lot of that. So I still have the too much gene, but I think I've been able to harness it in a way that allows me to just move quickly at big speeds and accomplish a lot in a short amount of time. But I have the off switch now. I have my rhythms and routines where I can turn that off. I have the ability through years of therapy to recognize when it's starting to get out of hand and to step away. And so now it's able to just like turn it on, turn it off, but it doesn't rule my life. And it used to rule my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think it's like, again, I struggle with so much. Like, even like today, I'm like gonna go work out later, and it's like there's an element of like, dude, you should probably take a rest day or like do something really chill. But like, there's also a part of me that's like wants to push, right? But if you don't learn to like, even how I approach like even work, like, cause when you know this too, you started your own business, like I could work nonstop. I would have worked till 9 o'clock at night last night or 10 o'clock at night doing something, right? And honestly, in our day and age, it's very easy to feel like you're working even when you're trying to disconnect with the way a lot of things are. But like, you have to kind of learn to become some of what you weren't programmed to be, quote unquote. Like dance, I think dance is one of those things. I just see this in a lot of people who dance. It's like, it is super perfectionistic, right? It is like, this is the way you do things. This is acceptable. This is not. And it's hard to undo those things, right? But at some point, you have to like people like you or in anybody, because I think men also, and I don't make that statement, men are just perfectionistic in other ways. Like we also just take on like weird emotional burdens in other ways, and then we cope with them in very shitty ways. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like men cope with stuff terribly. And I think we all are figuring out how to do this stuff, but. Yeah, it's like you have to learn to put stuff down if it's not serving you. And it's really hard. Like, I have a couple clients on my roster that are women, super strong, super good at what they do, but they are assholes to themselves. And it's like, all right, we got to figure out how to like change this internal narrative And they hate that because it's like, I don't want to just, sugarcoat that like XYZ. I'm like, you're not sugarcoating it. You're literally just trying to go from like you're being an asshole to yourself to you're just being like generally neutral, right? About what you're trying to do. And then maybe you can become a little bit more kind in XYZ. But like people are resistant to that until they really figure out that like, oh, it's screwing me up a little bit, right?
Yeah, I have a lot of mantras that I go back to help center myself, and one is let it be easy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to not do hard things. I'm saying to not make yourself suffer extra while you do those hard things. Like, okay, I'm training for a half marathon. I know I ran 2 days a week because truthfully, I knew that was all I could handle. I wasn't going to be going for speed. I wasn't going to be running 4 days a week. Like, that's the first time I've done regular cardio in 8 years. So I was going to have to take it slow. So, okay, my weekends are my long runs. I know I have to do a long run. But I'm going to choose the day where it's a little bit cooler and I can go a little bit earlier and I don't have as much to do the rest of the day so I can rest and recover. So I'm not avoiding the hard thing. I'm just letting it be easier and not beating myself up in the process. I think especially when we think about rest, we step back and we say, I need to rest. And at this point, I feel like everyone knows that like rest is a fruit of the spirit. We need that as humans. But if you're making yourself suffer for choosing rest, your whole rest period, you're not gaining anything.
Yeah.
So even in your rest, you have to let it be easy. You have to set the stuff aside. You have to let it float out of your brain. And I am at my core a type A person. My husband is very type B and very laid back. He can rest and relax with dishes in the sink. That stresses me out. So finding my own ways to be able to like let rest be easy. And in training, I'm organizing my weeks where it's going to be the least stressful but still allow me to accomplish my goals. So I think when we look at ourselves and our patients and clients who are the go, 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 finding ways to help them allow it to be easy first, then spills over and they see, I'm sleeping better. I'm actually training better. Hey, I'm able to lift heavier. I'm showing up for my kids better. But until we can see the benefit of something, we're not going to choose to do it.
Yeah, you have to get the exposure that it like, oh, this is helping. Like, yeah, you don't change people's minds with like information or like really it's like the experience. And it's a lot of times it's like, all right, you got to trust me a little bit. You got to trust me enough to like, and this is why I think people need people. Like, I mean, I think AI and just how we utilize information is changing. It's making a lot of the work that you have to do from like a button smashing standpoint to help people easier, right? But people still need people to be like, ask them a good question or be like, hey, these are the things I'm seeing. Like I have a guy who signed up with me. He's like a 25-year-old guy who played rugby in college and now he's out of college and he's got his first job, super busy. I actually coached him when he was in college and he's just super beat up. And he's like, you know what I actually need you for, Dave? Is to like, just give me permission to chill the F out. And I'm like, cool. Yep. That's really what honestly a lot of coaching can be until like, let's get you through this season. And then you can probably start to push again when you actually like let yourself kind of calm down. Right. But like people don't know how to quote unquote rest and digest. Like I always use that kind of framework of like, yeah, so fight or flight and rest and digest. Do you understand those things? And people are like, yeah, generally. And I'm like, how often do you think you're actually in rest and digest? And they're like, and I'm like, and this doesn't include like being on your phone and scrolling TikTok or like, if cleaning is actually, I think, meditative for a lot of people. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. But like stuff that's pissing you off, like work tasks where you're not really doing anything, but you're pissed off, right? And a lot of people are like, yeah, like not very much. I'm like, all right, so you got to start figuring out how to, and these are some modes to get into rest and digest, like go for a walk, sit and breathe, chill out, watch a funny movie, all those types of things. But we suck at it. And I think it's because we're just bombarded with stuff all the time, right? When it comes to like, okay, when I said that I wanted to talk to you about like Pilates as a gateway for movement, right? And I will say that I, on social media, which is a dumpster fire, will be like Pilates is not necessarily strength training. And we can talk about like the merits of stuff. My big point is that Pilates is great. I think it's an awesome activity. I think people need to do whatever makes them feel safe and challenges them. And I want to get your take on Pilates as a method of movement, and if it can be strength training. And I also think at a certain point it is strength training, because it's definitely gonna make people stronger. And also just why that has become a big piece of your life, because I'm interested and I think it's a good conversation.
Pilates was the first form of movement I could tolerate again when I was sick. At Pilates 2020, in my room, I actually started with like a postnatal mat series, because I was like, if someone that just delivered a baby can do it, I think I can probably do it. But it was primarily gentle movement and mobility. And looking back, I again think this is another one of those pivotal moments, and this is what I've ultimately built my practice around. I didn't have anyone helping me figure out how to move in a body that was also healing at the same time. So I just didn't, and then I tried, and I would flare, and I would feel terrible, and I would try, and I would flare, and I would feel terrible. So it wasn't until I started like way underneath what I anticipated my ceiling to be, which was actually what my ceiling was, and started to do that with some level of consistency, that I started to build up baseline tolerance. From there, I found a studio that I love, and is the studio that I partner with now, and just started my Pilates reformer practice. I feel like when we think, especially in the chronic illness world, especially with POTS, which is really common, especially now with long COVID complications, we see POTS in so much of our female, and especially our young female population, that you can get a workout laying down the entire time. So you're taking away a lot of the transitional postural burden and up and down, and at most, between exercises, I'm rolling over or changing a spring. I'm not loading plates on a rack or picking up weights and moving them around and walking across a gym. So the barrier to entry is just a lot lower. You're able to show up and lay down, and like by the first 20 minutes laying down, I'm like, hey, I'm already halfway through class. I can do the rest of this. So I think for many, many people, especially people who have been managing chronic disease, chronic illness, chronic pain, or people who have just been out of a movement practice for a long time, it tends to be easier to tolerate than just walking into a gym and picking up weights. I think the problem that we start to see is when we stop there. Like you said, Pilates can be strengthening. If I look at my ceiling of strength and the Pilates class is programming at or near that, I'm going to develop physiological strength in response to that load. But as my body adapts months down the road, it's not enough of that mechanical stress to continue to drive that change. That's when, okay, I'm tolerating this regular Pilates practice really well. That's my new baseline. What now am I building on top of that? And that's where our more traditional strength training and weightlifting comes in. So I think on Instagram and on social media, they've been pinned against each other. Pilates versus strength, and it's both. And your Pilates practice will make your strength training better. Your strength training practice will make your Pilates practice better. They're going to keep feeding forward and influencing each other to allow you to progress in both practices. But I see, like clinically, the most two things. One is that it's only been Pilates for a long time, and it's not addressing symptoms anymore, or they're starting to breed an underlying frustration that they're plateaued. So now we start to add in strength and help build them a strength routine that they love and helps build progress, so then they're more willing to participate in it. Or it's people who have never done Pilates, who are stuck in either boom-bust cycle of chronic pain, chronic illness, that just need a tolerable entry point. And so then it's like, I'm not going to have you go pick up a 20-pound dumbbell. We're going to start with a 15-minute mat flow, and I want you to tolerate that for 2 weeks with no post-exertional malaise or big reactive pain flare, and then from there we'll take it wherever we need to for you. So I really think Pilates as an entry point for our chronic disease population is really, really important, but we can't stop there. We have to keep going.
Yeah, I think that's you struck on so much of the nuance. Like my point and the thing that I think is like, hey, yeah, if you're a 55-year-old woman and you're tolerating full Pilates classes 3 times a week, like, great, keep doing that. But like, you could probably start to incorporate some strength training, and there are still practitioners out there being like, yeah, just Pilates is what you need. Just keep walking and doing Pilates. And it's like, that's like, there's a limitation, right? There's again, science is really good for broad trends and on like population levels, but individuals get lost inside of those things, right? And like you said something also super pertinent, that we all suck at actually figuring out, like, everybody sucks at figuring out, like, actually, where is my tolerance at? We usually try to start way freaking higher until we learn that lesson, honestly, like, over and over again, right? And that's where a lot of times too, like, people will come to you, or they'll come to me, depending on like who they are and what they're looking for, and I'll be like, yeah, so it seems like you're doing this, and like, if we just take like 3 steps back, you're gonna have a better time, right? And then you're probably gonna get to that higher level, and then we can start to kind of finagle, your physiology a little bit more. But yeah, there's a lot of nuance to it, because like, I think most people aren't even moving. Like, what is it, like 20% or the 25% of our population actually meets like exercise guidelines? And it's not even about necessarily meeting the exercise guidelines. It's just like, pretty much, we just got to get people moving more in ways that help them feel better, right? And that's where people get, I know a lot of people who love their group classes, but those group classes kind of beat the crap out of them from like a strength training standpoint, because they're like trying to like fit themselves into a box that they're not really ready for, or they're just, frankly, people also have the too much gene, and they'll go 6 days a week instead of 3 days a week or whatever, right? And that's also tricky. Humans, I've been thinking about this a lot. If it was as simple as like, your knee hurts, let's figure out your knee, like, our job would not be that crazy, right? But it's like, we got to figure out the human with the knee, right? That's hard.
Absolutely. And I think in your treatment philosophy and your online presence, you have a really, really wonderful way of simplifying it. You don't ditch the nuance, but you're opening the door for people to say, hey, something's better than nothing. If I'm moving my body, I'm ahead of the curve. And so much, again, just that permission slip to acknowledge what I'm already doing is enough, and I have to accept that before I can start to build, is half the battle. And so whether people are finding that through walks, or through a Pilates practice, or through getting back in the gym, or through a rec sport, I don't care. I care that we're able to create something that they enjoy, build a foundation on solid ground first, and then progress to whatever serves their life. If we're progressing and building on sand, we're failing, and we're stuck in this boom bust cycle, which then has long-term a lot more like emotional and psychological effects, because you lose trust in your body. You think you're always going to fail. You don't have the confidence to push yourself, because through that process, you've learned that you're never actually moving forward. You're just moving up and down. So to be able to we're always going to move up and down. It's never a straight line, but to be able to find that firm foundation first, through whatever movement, and just moving your body is always step one. I feel like we can get really technical and want to zoom past that. But at the end of the day, if someone can't tolerate their 20-minute walk with their dog, I'm not going to give them a bunch of squats for their knee pain.
Yeah, right. Like, trust is such a important, trust and confidence are kind of like the subconscious things that I want to build with people, right? Like, because, yeah, I mean, like, I got shoulder pain right now, Christina, and I'm going to go bench later. And I trust my shoulder. I don't necessarily trust myself to make a good decision all the time, right? And I'm not going to bench super heavy. Like, this is part of it. It sucks because, like, I have benched XYZ, right? And now I'm benching here. And I literally made a post about this, like, yesterday. It's like, literally just lower the weight to what you tolerate and build back up. It's going to be fine. It's really freaking psychologically hard to do that, right? It takes like patience. It often takes like accountability to somebody else, right? But yeah, like, what people are really lacking a lot of times, and I think so much of it is because, me and you, I think, understand a lot about pain and physiology, but we would still probably be like, there's stuff that I'm still figuring out, right? And social media can often make things very black and white, but like, and it also can make people distrust and lose confidence that like they're gonna be okay, if we regress or if we find ways to move. And like you said, walking your dog for 20 to 30 minutes, it may not be like the biggest win in the world, but it is a good psychological win that you feel good doing it and you can kind of meet yourself where you're at. Because let's be honest, life is complex and there's a lot of stressors on people, right? I don't know where I was going with that. Where I was going with that is you building trust in your body. It sounds like with, I'm going to do this mat flow, right? Or, you know, I'm going to start easy and build up. How has this, yeah, this is where I was going with this. Your half marathon, like that's a good undertaking. Like 13.1 miles is no joke, right? So how did you even get yourself to trust yourself to do that? Right? Because it's still like a little bit of a leap. Honestly, I was very depressed and like suicidal ideations, right? That was the thing I had to get over, was that I was gonna come back because of something that I did necessarily, like, right? Like I'm gonna fuck something up and then I'm gonna go back into the spiral. And I've kind of learned to realize, like, yeah, a lot of it is how I was managing my problems, the burdens that I was taking on, like, and learning, and honestly, like, cognitive behavioral therapy in general, like getting outside helps. I got to do the things that help me. But like, how have you built trust and confidence in your body, despite the fact that, like, yeah, you are going to have to manage yourself, honestly, as we all are, to be clear, like we all have to manage ourselves the rest of our freaking lives, right? But how have you built trust and confidence in yourself?
I think on a grand scale, it's time. I mean, since I really was extremely sick, it's been, 7 years since diagnosis, almost 8. So one is just time, that with the days feel long and the months are hard, but like looking back, the years are short. Mm-hmm. And then I think on a smaller scale, I would say 2025, I actually dealt with a lot of orthopedic injuries. I think I'm a little bit predisposed. I had insane Lyme arthritis. I have an old right labrum tear in my right hip. And when I got Lyme disease, that Lyme arthritis flocked to that right hip. So I have chronic right hip pain, other stuff going on. That got super, super flared up early 2025 and was 6 months of management and PT to get that to calm down. As soon as it was better, I fell down the stairs on the right side of my hip and my whole right leg was numb. So now I have like a back involvement and a back injury of this right hip. And I just did what you learn in school and what I learned with my patients, and I started slow and I stayed as consistent as I could, which honestly, I'm not giving myself, it wasn't great. Like my consistency with my home exercise program wasn't great. It took a really long time, but seeing my body's ability to heal from a more, I guess, stereotypical orthopedic injury, and one level gave me a little bit more trust in my body that I can heal and tolerate more load. So it was almost like, okay, we've looked at it from more of this like systemic tolerance and load management with my overall body and my fatigue and post-exertional malaise. But hey, if my hip can heal from a labrum tear that's 10 years old while doing all of this, and I can manage, ridiculous symptoms, then I can probably push it a little bit. So that was part of it, was like, hey, I can see on a smaller scale that I'm able to heal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, looking back, I've healed over 8 years, but I just healed a hip injury and a back injury. I still manage them daily, both of them. But the third section is I didn't actually pay for the race until probably a month before. Because I needed time to be able to see that it was going to be possible, and I was not willing to put myself in a ditch just to do it. I needed to know that I could tolerate this level of training and that 2 days a week was going to stress me, but I was going to have enough recovery that I could still strength train twice a week to take care of my hip and my back injury and have some semblance of a Pilates practice. I needed to know that that was a sustainable routine, and that, yes, while harder than it's been in the past for me physically, it wasn't going to cause a 3-month flare-up or set me back in ways that I wasn't willing or ready to accept. So another part of it was I used the training process to build that trust. Yeah. And I made sure that I was, like, through my own kind of flags of recovery, that I was staying at a baseline that I was happy with and still felt supportive to my overall health.
Yeah. That's, I mean, I think I listened to like some motivational video like 3 or 4 years ago, and it's like one of the biggest things is just like making decisions in life, just making decisions and like making it just be okay. Like you're going to make that decision work out. Right. And I think so much of when people are hurt, when people are struggling, what they do is they like kind of flip flop on the decision all the time. And it almost makes like this dissonance. Right. And it's like, yeah, like, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 8 weeks of training. I'm going to see how I feel. And then I'm going to pay for the race. I'm going to sign up. Like, that's okay. Like, that's the other thing I think is just like social media makes it seem like there's this perfect route for everything. And it's like, no, it's like, just do stuff. like, yes, get help, get accountability, you know, pick goals, but just do stuff and see how you respond. Right. And then be nice to yourself on the journey. Right. So I love that because yeah, you didn't like lock yourself in. You kind of had an escape plan, and that's okay, right? And I think people are assholes to themselves about having an escape plan sometimes, right?
That's another way too that I have to challenge my too much gene. I have to do things that way so I don't lock myself in. Because if I do make that decision, I am going all in. My problem is that I make decisions without maybe necessarily thinking through the whole consequences, and then I don't let myself back down from it. So by forcing myself to keep things a little bit more gray and a little bit more nuanced, I allow time and space to adapt and make changes when necessary. If I just signed up, if I decided to sign up for a marathon tomorrow, I would make myself do it. I don't think that's a healthy choice for me right now. But we talked a little bit at the beginning, like that healthy level of delusion. You need a base level of confidence to achieve anything. People always know I say everything will work out because I'm insane. And that's true. You have to believe that you can achieve what you're going to do, or else you're just not going to do it. You're going to waffle. You're going to go up and down. So there is a healthy balance of both of those things, leaving it open enough to change and to adapt. And also, I'm committing to it and I'm going to do it in a way that serves me. It may not be the way I thought I was going to do it, and I can pivot my path, but maybe the destination is still the thing that I decided I'm doing and I'm committing to.
I think you touched on just like confidence comes from doing, right? Like people like, oh, I have to have the confidence. It's like, no, like you have to be delusional enough to attempt it and then basically realize that it's probably not going to work out exactly how you had planned, but that's okay. Cause like that's most things in life. And then, yeah, like you said, it's probably that you're going to learn something from it. Right. And I think that's one of the things about like kind of growing up. You mentioned earlier, just like you didn't know any other different, right? You didn't know anything different until, you know, we kind of get into our 20s and then we're just exposed to all sorts of different things. And like, yeah, you just kind of push through because that's all you knew. And so I think that's what a lot of people kind of do. And then they get to their mid 20s, their 30s, their 40s, and they haven't really learned any of the like physical or cognitive tools to help them navigate this shit. Even like I'm tired. I have a 18-month-old. Like that little kid, like literally is putting stuff in his mouth. He's like crying, like, you know, he picks something up and he literally goes, and it's like, it's so, for me, I'm a control freak for myself, right? And I cannot control that kid. And I don't want to control that kid. I just want him to play and have fun. But it's exhausting when I'm like, man, I got shit to do in my brain, and like I'm just trying to be present with him, right? But I'm way better at being present because I went through this shit that basically taught me like you gotta learn to be present, right? And you gotta bring yourself back. And it's, yeah, you really have to like navigate these things, or even the good stuff about you. This is my point. The good stuff about you, the stuff that makes you you, will break you if you don't learn to manage it, right? And you don't have all the, you know, obviously Lyme disease wasn't in your control or anything like that, but like the combination of having Lyme disease, being a pusher, those things, it's like you got to really learn. There's a lesson there. I don't know why you have to learn that lesson, but I think we all have to learn lessons like that, right? Talk to me about, go ahead.
We all learn it, and we all learn it at different points in our life. I think that now I can say this, which like if you would have told this to me 8 years ago, I would have punched myself in the face. Like, I'm lucky to have learned it so early because I get to live the rest of my life with these lessons and not from someone having told them to me, for me having to just figure it out on my own with medical team and therapy and family support and everything. But like, like you said, you have to experience it to build the confidence and to learn the lessons. It's not just told to you. So the fact that I get to build my practice and my life around these lessons I had to learn at 21 has set me up, I think, in a really beautiful way for eventual parenthood and just building a big business and all of that stuff. So I'm thankful now, I can say, with enough distance looking back to it. But everyone's hardest journey is their hardest journey. So whether that looks like someone's shoulder pain keeping them from lifting for the first time and it's their first time of injury, their emotional response and reaction to that may be really intense, but that's their hardest thing. They've never not trusted their body before. They've never had to think through those things. So I think no matter on what scale you're exposed to it, we all are exposed to it at some point in my life. I actually had this conversation with my father-in-law yesterday. He's been through 2 cancers and 2 brain surgeries. He's in his 70s and he walks 8 miles a day. He's amazing. So we have both come through these really intense health journeys, him in his late 60s and me in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And now share this kind of common language and understanding on more of like even a spiritual and emotional sense of what it's like to be the only person in your body having to figure those things out.
Yeah.
Knowing that everyone else is around you and they're cheering for you, but they can't do the work. You're the one having to make the choice every single day. Like, okay, I'm going to try to eat this even though I might not be able to tolerate it and I might throw it up. Like, okay, I'm going to have to still try to take this pill because I know it's going to help me even though it makes me nauseous. Like, you're the one making those day in, day out choices, whether that's showing up to your PT exercises and completing your home exercise program, or if it's medical management for a chronic disease. It doesn't matter the scale of those things. The baseline ability to make the choice to serve yourself and take care of yourself never changes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful point. I say a very similar thing because, so I had my first panic attack on July 4th of 2020. I didn't know. I thought I was having a stroke. I literally thought I was having a stroke because, we learn all these things in school. And I've also worked on a neurosurgery floor, and I went to the gym. It was mid-2020. I was wearing a mask. I got up from bench pressing, and I felt like basically felt like my whole left side was numb. I went home. And I went to the emergency room, and they're like, nothing's wrong with you. And I'm like, all right, that sucks. I just went home, rested, went back to work later that day. It was, and then I just kept having more and more of this kind of spiral of things. And I, at the time, for the next 6 months, I had support, but I had people, my father-in-law gave me a really good, in hindsight, it was a nice pep talk. At the time, I wanted to punch him in the face. Because I was like, you don't know what I'm struggling with. I feel terrible. But I think there was a lot of things. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm very much prone to depression. I'm very much prone to anxiety because of just, a lot of things. But it's I'm at least navigating it way better than if I wouldn't have had that set of experiences. Even going to physical therapy school probably helped me tremendously navigate some of these things that a lot of people, and I think men especially, would just freaking cope with drugs or alcohol or doing stupid shit, right? And it's I'm the only person that's going to inhabit this body. You're the only person that's going to inhabit your body. Everybody's literally the only person that's going to inhabit their body. And there's a lot of overlap in our physiology, but at the same time, everybody's psychology is somewhat unique and individual. And you got to learn to navigate it. And people can be there cheerleading, but also it sucks at times. But it also probably can make you who you are and who you're meant to become in a lot of ways, which is wild, right? Look at all the people you're helping because you've gone through your experience, right?
Yeah, I absolutely think it's made me a better provider, especially for the population that I serve, because someone who's never lived with POTS, with endo, had laparoscopic surgery, had post-exertional malaise, it's not their fault, but they just are not able to treat that in a way that's really going to meet that person where you're at. That's why there are so many providers for so many people. You have to find one that's going to work for you. I am not the best person for a CrossFitter, but a CrossFit coach is not the best person for someone with a brand new POTS diagnosis. So that's why we exist, and that's kind of the beauty of our profession. I think something that goes through with this, and you spoke really well about, hey, I'm prone to these things, but I manage it better. You also do a really good job of saying, hey, pain is normal, and our goal probably shouldn't be to get out of pain. It should be to manage those things better. And I think we can make that work with chronic illness and chronic disease too, and just decentralize the symptoms and focus more on like the process and the movements and the new things that we're able to accomplish. So having that understanding of pain is a human experience. I got this diagnosis that can't really currently be treated because of lack of funding, poor research, medical access, whatever that reason may be, but I can still move my body in a way that feels good, show up for my family and friends better, live a life that creates joy and helps me choose and foster joy. So again, going back to that concept of like, it's both and. You can have these symptoms, you can have this pain, you can have this diagnosis, and do more than maybe we think we're able to do.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, again, it doesn't always land because there are always people out there being like, pain, yeah, but my pain sucks. And I'm like, I know it sucks. But there's so many factors, and a lot of times it's like, everybody is, we are all creating our experiences. Like that is like literally what your brain is doing. It is taking this amazing cocktail of life experience, your knowledge, your feelings in your body. Like today, literally, like I sat and I just looked out the window and I don't know if you've ever done like a body scan, but I just like let myself go and I would have never figured these things out if I wouldn't have been like in a weird pain state. But I just like let myself like dissolve into like a giant ball of sensation, and it's like, man, this is nice. Like I'm not feeling like my left hip kind of gets pissy, and I've been sprinting too hard, and like so my ankle's a little pissy, right? But I felt generally good, and like, oh, that's a new experience. Okay, I can get myself there. Honestly, I should probably go to Pilates. I should definitely do yoga. Like, I should definitely do, like, one session a week of, like, go do yoga because it's so different.
Mm-hmm.
Like, slow down, breathe, do these movements over and over again. I actually, like, that's something I've been really thinking about. But like, or going and playing tennis, like playing a sport like that. Again, I'm able enough to do it, but when I'm playing that, I'm so in the moment that I don't even think about my body, and it's amazing. And I think so much of what we do, unfortunately, I say we globally as like health practitioners, rehab practitioners, is we get people very, very focused on their body, as opposed to just the experience of doing something, right? Or just like letting go of some of these sensations that, yeah, they're trying to tell you something, but also like, you're not. I always say this with foot pain. It kind of sounds like I'm being a dick, but like the last time I checked, your feet aren't close to any internal organs or your brain, and you're probably going to be okay, even though they hurt because you walked 15,000 steps or whatever, right? And it's like that, but I have said that to multiple people, and they're like, oh, that actually makes a ton of sense. Like, I know it kind of sucks to have foot pain, but like, it's not nearly as scary now. I'm like, yeah, and it's you're probably going to be okay, and it's going to get better, and we can do things to help, but like, you ruminating on it doesn't help. Like, you trying to fix it over and over again doesn't help. And that's what a lot of it does. Like, even you and me, I'm sure we've gone through these cycles of we're trying to fix something, and it just makes us pissed off and frustrated, right? And that's no way to go about life.
I think especially when we look at, my population that I serve, chronic illness, chronic disease, even more like chronic pain and migraine patients, we are conditioned to pay so close attention to our symptoms. We have our heart rate monitor for our POTS symptoms because we want to make sure our heart rate isn't spiking more than X amount of beats per minute after our walk. And we are conditioned to have to pay so close attention because we're trying to learn. We're trying to find answers. We're trying to find the things that help us feel better and avoid the things that maybe flare us up. But by getting in that, we know with pain neuroscience education, I'm confirming so many of those like neural pathways that are allowing me and keeping me in that. So I'm really careful in my language to decentralize pain and symptoms. Mm-hmm. I want to be super clear that I'm not ignoring it. My goal is still to treat those things. I'm still using those person's pain and symptoms to entirely guide their rehab journey. But I'm not starting my first interaction with rate your pain. I'm not starting my first interaction with what hurt. I'm starting with what were you able to do this week that maybe you wouldn't have been able to do 4 weeks ago. Yeah. And with that, and I think this ties Pilates back into it, I'm creating the opportunity for these people to experience movement in a way that doesn't cause upset.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the first step to that confidence and trust in the body's ability to heal. So when I'm giving someone a 25-minute mat flow, I'm able to say, hey, just do this and don't think about it. and I'm fully giving you permission to not think about your body or your symptoms. Just breathe. If you want music on, if you want a show on, listen to me talking and cueing through things, but give yourself permission to just move in a way that feels good for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And disconnect from that. So I'm using movement and I'm using Pilates as a tool to access a part of the brain that in kind of a low level starts to build that trust and confidence back up. So taking it away from, a lot of times think traditional PT settings is just objective measurements and how's your pain and all of this, but that's not always serving where we're at.
It's funny because I wish for myself and like a lot of like the people who are like pushing it from a powerlifting perspective or a lifting or running perspective, I do try to get more of them to just do the work without expectations of objectivity. You know, your body is different every day, and if you're trying to push to where you were at your ceiling constantly, and this is where like there's a ton of overlap between strength and conditioning and rehab. It's like, yeah, there's a reason that people peak and then they go back down and they do like a less fatiguing work for periods of time, right? And that's kind of where we've touched on this multiple times, but like, you know, our physiology is basically like riding waves. Ideally, what we have happen is like the trajectory and the baseline level of performance goes up even after you've had a chronic condition or you're struggling with some of these things, because like our body is pretty good at learning to tolerate things and adapt to things. It's kind of our mind that still sucks at it, right? And yeah, again, like I think that's been one of the perks of my business. Like what I do is, I don't like the first question I ask is like, how is your pain? What were you doing that like? And I didn't even do those things when I was in clinic and I was supposed to. I just like stopped doing it and like I'll just record this later or whatever. Yeah, because what you focus on is what you get, right? To a point. And yes, I don't want you to hurt, but like let's also just start to move. And this is also like, I'm a big therapeutic alliance guy, and it's just like I'm here to support you, and I'm here and I believe it's gonna be okay. I feel like that's a lot of what you're doing too, is like I'm here to support you. I can't do it for you, but I can be here for you, and that's what a lot of people need. And so much of healthcare, especially our field, I think is a fixer mentality, right?
I definitely did not know or understand when I chose physical therapy as a career what I was getting into.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can share that. I'm like, I love anatomy and biomechanics and I want to help and I'm going to make people feel better and I'm going to take away their pain. And like, yes, those things are true, but I think the most beautiful part of our career is that rehab is a reflection of the human experience. So our ability to tie those things together is where the magic's at. Anyone can look up exercises for rotator cuff and get a rotator cuff strong. Not everyone can make that experience feed forward into their lives, into their emotional experience and their spiritual experience, and bridge the gap between mind, body, and spirit. We have so many practitioners that are a body practitioner, that are a mind practitioner, that are a spiritual practitioner. But those things don't happen in isolation. Nothing happens in isolation. So the ability to slow down and to be able to tie, like it may sound weird, like my back pain to like my spiritual journey, but that's true.
Dude, it's so true. Sorry to call you a dude, but it's so true. Like it's when I am spiritually like fulfilled, my body feels great. It's like, and there is just so many waves. Honestly, I consume way too. I haven't been consuming that much news, but the news gets me. The news gets me out of a spiritual flow because I want to care about the world and I want to help and I want to be, but like the news is like, it's fear porn, right? I think that's a Dave Ramsey thing, but yeah, the spirituality piece is like, that was a big thing that helped me, because I couldn't think my way out of anxiety. I couldn't think my way out of depression. I could act my way and I could learn to like manage my thoughts better. But a lot of that was like a spiritual journey, right? And that's freaking, people don't love to hear that per se, but I think it's pretty cool.
And I'm not always going on that journey with every one of my clients. You know, some people, they just need their shoulder pain better and they need to find a movement routine that works for them. Yeah. I'm here for that. Yeah. But I feel like more so in the chronic illness, chronic disease state, it is influencing every second of your life and it's spilling over. So the ability to even recognize that spillover effect into how my physical affects my emotional and ties into my spiritual experience and my body and this crazy world we're living in, even giving permission to, hey, those things can cross over, and it's okay to use this experience to maybe think about that other experience and see how they're informing each other. I'm not necessarily a spiritual guide, but I'm giving permission and I'm opening the door to allow people to, like, hey, let this experience that you didn't choose to go on, but hey, you're on it anyway. Let it serve you in more ways than just my back doesn't hurt as bad anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I definitely am not taking everybody on like a shamanistic journey to deep spiritual purity. But like, I mean, it's just being supportive. It's being, again, there's hard conversations with people. It's still being kind and being human. People don't always want to hear like the psychological and emotional components. I've also done a lot better job, I think, a few years into practice, or like especially in my business, I did lean into and I still do, habits, mindset, appropriate workload type of thing. But I would probably hammer some people that I really felt like needed the mindset harder than I probably would now, just because I'm like, I don't think they're ready for that. But let's like try to help their body in ways that we can, and go from there, right? So, but yeah, you're 100% right that like I went to PT school because I loved training, and I just saw that in the hospital, especially, there were so many people get deconditioned, and like I think people need to believe in their body's ability to heal, and I think some of that comes through movement, like you've shown yourself to, and you're showing other people. But I did not necessarily think it was going to be as much just humans connecting with humans as I think it is, right? So all right. Great conversation. I would probably keep going with you for a long time, but I think we should probably wrap it up here. Where can people find you, Christina?
Yeah, thank you. You can find me on Instagram at wellspring_PT. You can find me online at wellspringptnash.com. And if you enjoy some of these conversations about the intersectionality and human experience of pain and psychology, you can subscribe to my newsletter where I talk about this every week.
Sweet. I will link those things in the show notes. This will be on YouTube, and this will be on wherever people get their podcasts. So, Christina, thanks so much for being on. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Peace, everybody.